Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Kind of wanted to try a little vlog style thing here. I am in the parking lot, just pulled up to Laughing Dragon in Issaquah, which is an awesome local game store that hosts a bunch of CEDH events up in the Seattle area. I was invited to this 16-person high roller invitation only event, which is really exciting. I joined the wait list and then somebody had to drop out and then I was asked to join. So I'm really excited to be here. The format is basically 16 people. We're going to be randomly assigned pods and randomly assigned seat position. These are all players that are pretty dang good. So I looked at the roster and they're players who have won previous tournaments or were invited. So I think that the quality of play here is gonna be really high. So I'm excited. I might only play one game. I'm hoping to win both. That would be awesome, but I'm gonna do a little vlog style here and see if it's something cool. I don't know. Bye. Say my name. Say my name.
Wait, 50 CDH players or one trail?
The suspense is killing me.
Josh Monroe.
That's not me. Say my name.
Steven.
No! No!
I need this one.
Second. All right. All right. What'd you get first?
Josh, you're fourth.
Hey everybody. Round one of the 2 rounds just finished and holy shoot. I won. Super awesome game. Just to give you a review of what happened, I was seated into second seat. The pod was Atraxa in first seat on a mold of 5. I was in second seat on a 6, playing my Landfall Corvold list. Seat 3 was Rog Thras on a second 7, and then seat 4 was Cedh on a second 7. Overall, I ended up keeping my my mold to 6 because it felt like it was going to be a really slow pod between Atraxa, Rog Thras, and the Cedh, and I did have prior knowledge that the Cedh player plays like a slower Staxy style of Cedh. So I kept a turn 2 Black Market Connections hand, hoping that that would just over time get me enough resources to win. About turn 4, after my second Black Market Connections situation, there was a fish developed, a Ristic developed. I was able to put a Chatterfang on the stack when I had a Warren and the Shapeshifter from Black Market Connections. So I was able to get that loop going. The problem was that I had only had Shocklands, Ancient Tomb, and then had eaten Black Market Connections twice. So I was actually really low on life, even though I had Corvold out, or I had to, essentially I had 20 total Warren Chatterfang triggers to go through. So I got Corvold out using 7 of those, and then I had 13 to work with, so I ended up drawing about 20-something cards. There was an ultimate stack fight over myself besajuing the Ristic pretty early on to try to remove it, so I didn't have to just feed cards. Besage the Ristic, ended up having a swat coming down. I was playing a Veil, Pyroblast, massive stack battle, Force of Negation, Pact of Negation, ended up somehow in this mess resolving a crop rotation to get E-Zone onto the battlefield. And then once I had E-Zone on the battlefield, I was pretty free and clear. I was just kind of like testing the waters, one spell at a time. And Endurance came out at one point, just kind of was using small amounts of mana to try to gain incremental advantage. You know, I was just like playing my rocks, doing my thing. And there was this looming threat of a Deathrite Shaman that was active on my opponent's field. And at this point, after the huge stack battle, I was at like 1 life. So I knew that I was going to have to like figure out a way to deal with the Deathrite Shaman because the activation was coming at any second. So the player didn't have mana to activate it at any given time. So they were talking basically every single spell. The Cedh player had an Irith out and could untap to give the Deathrite Shaman person mana to be able to, you know, activate it and put death on the stack for me. Obviously I had an E-Zone active, so once that was good, I just kind of had to play around a little bit, got a couple of big spells out, and then eventually landed a Ruthless Technomancer on my like 32 Corvold. getting myself the win. So super excited. First high roller event. Got the dub. We take those. We're in the money, baby. So I'll give you another update afterwards, but that was my game. Hype. Let's go, Corval. All right, for the finals pod. For the finals pod, I'm picking turn order. We want this one. Third? Dang it.
First.
Atlas first. Second. Jack fourth. How are you feeling?
Bad. I went fourth in my top 10 game too.
Hey everybody, checking in after, unfortunately, a crushing defeat. So the final pod of the tournament, it was Atlas on his Kenrith list. To preface, Atlas is probably the best Kenrith play I've ever seen. Not particularly close. He was in first seat on Kenrith. I think he kept his first 7. Second seat was Enris Gloomstalker. I think kept first 7. No, it might have been second 7 or 6. Myself, I was on a first 7. Keeping another Black Market Connections turn 2 hand. It was reliant on crop rotation for Ancient Tomb before my second turn, so that I can have Ancient Tomb and a second land to get there. But I was like, this pod's not going to be too crazy, so I'm going to keep this hand. So I kept that same Black Market Connections hand, or something similar to my first game. Seat 4 was Blue Farm, Jack Hall, who's a really good Blue Farm player. Actually, no, he wasn't on Blue Farm. He was on Ludovic. So basically Blue Farm, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing, but he runs the flares because Ludovic's cheaper. But yeah, I think he was on second 7, I believe, as well. Anyway, the game was basically over in the second turn cycle, because like I had alluded to before, I was pretty reliant on that crop rotation to go get Ancient Tomb so that I can cast Black Market Connections on my second turn. Basically what ends up happening is on Enris Gloomstalker, so I like land go on Enris Gloomstalker's turn, so their second turn, yeah, because I was seat 3. So on their second turn, they untap Worldly Tutor before upkeep. Atlas jokingly was like, I'm not gonna upper you, like, and then I was like, okay, in response to the Worldly Tutor, I'm just gonna cast this crop rotation, sack my land. And then with that on the stack, Atlas said, okay, hold on a second. Ended up casting Eladamri's Call, and then having a floating black through a Mana Vault and a Lotus Petal to cast Opposition Agent. Looking back, huge misplay. I should have just let the Worldly Tutor resolve and then still cracked it afterward so that Atlas wasn't able to get both things. I think I was just, not playing very clean, I would say. I was playing loose and fast. So Atlas ended up getting an Ancient Tomb. He was looking for a Cradle as in my hand. Got an Ancient Tomb off of me. I had sacrificed a land, so I was on 0 freaking lands. And then I believe he got an Endurance from Enris Gloomstalker, the Enris Gloomstalker player. So it was rough. I basically just land passed. I land Aftermath Analyst because I was lucky enough to top deck an Overgrown Tomb. So I had Command Tower, Overgrown Tomb still. I guess I didn't, that's going to sound really weird, but I didn't explain that I had land, exploration, land, go. I'm really bad at reviewing this, but that was my first turn, which was a very strong turn. So I did have one land, top decked an Overgrown Tomb, thankfully. It wasn't a fetch land because Appa was out. Was able to cast play Aftermath Analyst, mill, pass. Played Squandered Resources on the next turn. We got to a point where the board state was just Atlas was absolutely dominating us. Had an Orcish Bowmaster out, Fairy Mastermind out, Enduring Vitality out. Everything was going his way. Jack, the Blue Farm player, or pseudo Blue Farm player, he was like, I'm just gonna jam. Tried to go for a breach line, knowing that there was an Endurance in play, but he had the ability to Tainted Pact for a Pact Negation to pact the Endurance, but Atlas had a counterspell and showed it to him, and it was like, if you do that, I'm just gonna blow you out. So Jack just kind of chilled instead after getting his breach win con stuffed. And then obviously Enris Gloomstalker player had kept the Worldly Tutor hand, didn't have a lot going on because of the opposition agent. Eventually I'm able to kill the opposition agent with an Abrupt Decay, get a... I had a very funny politicking thing where I had the ability to... Somehow my squander resources had resolved earlier in the game because, you know, I was on no lands under Oppo. Or I was on 1 land or 2 lands under Oppo, something silly. So my squander resources was out. I ended up drawing into a GSZ, a Green Sun Zenith, and was able to cast it for 6 or X equals 6 if I sacked all my lands. I did so, but before I did that, I was like, Atlas, you're not going to counter my Green Sun Zenith, are you? And then he was like, no, I'm not going to counter your Green Sun Zenith. And then Jack was like, I'm going to counter it. And I was like, really? You're going to counter my GSC? And then he was like, no, I'm not going to counter your Green Sun Zenith. And then I was like, okay. Sack all my lands, cast GSC X equals 6, and everyone at the table was like, whoa! And then Jack was like, yo, that's GSC X equals 6, can't let him get that. And then I was like, dude, Alice said you'd let it resolve. And then he was like, I did say I'd let it resolve. Okay, fine, you get it. So I got Lumra, pulled back a bunch of lands. Problem was that I know that there was a known force of will. I couldn't, like, jam there. There was no world where I was going to be able to cast Corvold, continue, do cool stuff. So it was just kind of like a big flashy play, and Lumra died because I had no lands in play, which kind of sucked, so I didn't even have a blocker for the massive orc army. End of the day, we eventually lost to Atlas because of that one opposition agent play where I probably gave him too much, you know. I played not clean, and that was the difference between winning a game or losing a game, or, you know, making the game play out a little different. That being said, if I didn't do that, maybe we would have just lost to the Blue Farm player through Breach. Probably. You never know. But, yeah, just an interesting game overall. Still made money. We were in the money in the high roll tournament. It was a cool tournament overall. The games were, you know, really, really good. But, yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. This is probably Patreon content. I realize I've been recording vertically this whole time as well. Rookie move. So it's going to look like shit if I put it on YouTube, but if I do, sorry. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.